Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Madeline and this is Made with Books, and this is the second and hopefully final part of my Q&A. Thank you again to everybody who asked questions, and I'm gonna get into the second... I'm just gonna get into it. So the first questions I want to answer are by Andrea from Infinite Text, and she asked, what do you do for a living and do you find it satisfying, or what you thought it would be? And before I tell you the other questions Andrea asked, I'm going to say that Summer from Summer Dawn and Robert from Barter Hordes asked similar questions. So Summer asked, what did you want to be growing up and what are you doing now? And Robert asked, what did you study in uni and what did you do in your work life? So I'm just going to answer all these together. So when I was young, I think until the age probably of 12, 13, maybe a little longer, I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I love animals, and I had, I don't know, tons of animal books, and I had like bind-ups of all the dog breeds, and I wouldn't know them all by heart. I don't anymore. I know some still, but I just was really interested in that. But then my dog, and I'm going to talk about him in a little bit, had to have an operation on his eye, and I was standing next to him to pet him, and then I almost went unconscious. And I figured that might not be the job for me. So yeah, that's how that dream got, well, not destroyed, but I don't know, not for the faint-hearted. And obviously I belong in that category. I ended up first out of high school doing a year abroad because I didn't want to study right away. So I worked as an au pair in Wisconsin, which was wonderful. I took care of 4 amazing kids, and yeah, it was just lovely. And while I was there, I decided I wanted to study literature because that is the other thing that I have loved ever since I can remember. And so I studied German and English literature. Both were my major, so the way that I studied, you could have 2 majors. So in my bachelor's degree I majored in German and English literature, and I also studied some linguistics because that was just part of the course of study. And then in my master's degree I majored in English literature and minored in German literature, and there were no more linguistics because as much as I acknowledge the importance of linguistics, I preferred the literary studies. So during my studies I did an internship at a bookshop, and I also did an internship at a publishing house, and I thought I would end up working for a publisher, which is something I was interested in. And then I did an internship also for a literary center in the town that I studied in, and a literary center is much like a literary house, and we have loads of these in Germany, and basically what they are is they organize literary events with the authors, and I really loved that. And that aspect, organizing literary events, is still, I think, the stuff that I'm mainly interested in, that is the most fun for me. I ended up doing not only the internship, but I was then a trainee, and eventually I became head of program after I had finished my studies. And I did that for about a year and a half, and then I had the opportunity to apply to my current job. And my current job is not quite the same, but it's also in the literary field. So I currently work at a non-profit organization that does a variety of things. If you translate it, it would be the Literary Council of Hessen. One thing we do is we have exchange programs for authors. So we have partnerships with countries that are connected to Hessen through partnerships. So we send authors into those countries, so for example France, Lithuania and Italy, and then we have authors coming from those countries and staying in Hessen for a month or 2 months. And so I prepare those things and organize those things. I organize readings for these authors, and then there's some newer projects that came additionally to the job now that I've worked there for a while. So last year we had a booth at the Frankfurt Book Fair, and so I organized that, and that was amazing experience. It was a lot of work, but it was super interesting and I learned a lot. We also have author exchanges within the state of Hessen, so I get to know a lot of the more countryside regional areas because that's where we're sending the authors. We also have every 2 years there's a day of literature that takes place in Hessen, and a lot of organizations participate in that, and there's readings, like more than 100 readings all over the state of Hessen on that day, and we help finance some of those events. So I'm also responsible for the finances and everything. And I'm the only person that works at that non-profit organization, so there's a board of members who volunteer and who are basically all of them are my bosses, and then there's me and I'm the manager, and that's more or less what I do. And yes, I do enjoy that, and it's not necessarily what I thought I would end up doing, but I'm happy where I am and I enjoy that job, so that's great. Back to Andrea's questions, because she also had other questions for me. One was, when in the day do you fit in reading? And is it a habit, set time, or different every day? And it's different every day because some of the days I have to go to work by train, so then I will use the train rides. Some of the days I work from home, so then it's more like either early in the morning or in the evening, and then on the weekends whenever I feel like it. So, and I don't know, just every chance I get, I guess. And then she also wanted to ask what I would ask my favorite author if I would bump into them by accident. And I decided my favorite author for this question is going to be Emily Bronte, because she wrote my favorite novel, and I would ask her to write me more books. Summer Dawn also asked another question that was, what are your top 10 favorite movies? And I decided I'm also gonna turn that into a separate video, just because I think I would want to say something about each movie and then that would get too long. And Robert from Baderhorst also asked if I'm currently not living in Germany, and nope, I'm currently living in Germany. I lived in other countries, but yes, right now I'm living in Germany. And then the next question was by Debbie Baker, and she said she'd like to hear the story of the lovely dog in the photograph, and that just melts my heart. So thank you, Debbie, for asking that. The lovely dog in the photograph that you can see in the background of most of my videos is unfortunately no longer alive. His name was Charlie, and Charlie, I got him when I was 11 years old. I got him as a puppy from a shelter. You can tell he's a mixed breed. They didn't quite know which different dog breeds were part of his genetic setup, because they only knew his mom, and she gave birth to him and his siblings at the shelter. And I'm happy to say that all of his siblings were adopted. I don't know what happened to his mom though, unfortunately. I hope she was too though at some point. And he was a super cool, super fun dog. He knew I got to teach him some tricks, so he knew how to roll over. He was able to open the door that led onto our property, which was really cool. Had a bit of a mind of his own, so he would sometimes, I don't know how he managed it, because we had a fence around the property, but he still managed to somewhere find a hole, and he would run off and come back after an hour looking guilty. But he never got into any real mischief, luckily, during those times. So he had one dog, and they really hated each other. Every time they saw each other, they would pull on the leash and go crazy and just wanna, I don't know, get at each other. And then eventually that dog passed away. And my dog would just walk past the property with these sad, soulful eyes, looking at the window, like trying to find his buddy to fight with. It's crazy. I couldn't take him with me when I started studying, because I studied in a city and I come from a very small town, and I just don't think my dog would have adapted well to having to stay in a flat, in an apartment all day. That wouldn't have worked. So he stayed with my mom, and I visited him as often as I could. And then sadly, while I was doing my semester abroad in California, and it was just a couple of days before I would have gone back to Germany, he passed away. And that was probably one of the saddest days in my life. And I still miss him, but I have pictures of him in my flat, or in our flat I should say. And yeah, he was a wonderful dog. I absolutely love him. So yeah, that was my story about Charlie. And then we stay with dogs somewhat, because Time and Chance did something really elaborate and asked me all these questions. And what they did was they gave me a lot of or questions, so it's one thing or the other, and I'm just gonna go through these quickly. I might talk about some in a little detail, but I think for most part I'm just gonna answer them. And they start out very easy, but they get trickier, and you will see. So the first one is cats or dogs. I think I just sufficiently answered that. Dogs. Not that I don't like cats, but dogs. Apples or oranges? I prefer oranges. FKK Nudist Society or Evangelical Theocracy? I'm gonna go with the Nudist Society, although I would be quite uncomfortable. Choral classical music or punk rock? Punk rock. I love punk rock. Greek or Norse mythology? I don't know enough about Norse mythology, I feel, to choose it. And I know Mark is watching, so I feel like I should choose Greek. But I've read some really short excerpts from like a Norse mythology non-fiction book that explains some of it, and it was just so weird that I'm gonna pick Norse. I'm sorry, Mark. If you're watching, I'm sorry. Determinism or free will? Free will. 40-degree heat or Celsius, I should add, or minus 20 degrees Celsius cold. I freeze very, very easily, so I'm gonna pick 40 degrees Celsius heat, even though I survived the Wisconsin winter, but I have no idea how I did that. Political centrism or income tax at 90%. Now I tend to lean more left-wing, but I'm still gonna go with the political centrism on this one. Novels with Deus Ex Machina or books without the same. Books without. Polyamory or monogamy. So for me personally, monogamy, but you do whatever you like. Urban or rural? Urban? Remaining in the EU or exiting the EU, and that one is easy, remaining. Freedom of worship, which includes disrupting the social order, or the secular government controls the social order. I don't think those two should necessarily exclude each other. I'm gonna go though with secular government. That doesn't mean I'm not for freedom of religion though, if that makes sense. I just don't... If you just go with freedom of worship, including disrupting the social order, I think that could get problematic. Publicly funded parochial schools with no strings attached, or no public funds for parochial schools. I had to look up what parochial schools are. So they are schools that have religious background tied to them, and then, sorry, no public funds for parochial schools. Big Brother or Valiant Society or Total Anarchy? I don't think Total Anarchy would work, but I'm still gonna pick it because it's the lesser of two evils. Increasing the age of consent or decreasing the age of consent? I think the age of consent, at least in Germany, that we have is fine, so neither. Increased gun control or decreased gun control? Increased. I know I'm in Germany, I would say increased even here, but I'm talking about the US. You guys need to increase your gun control. It's ridiculous at this point. Increased use of surveillance cameras or no such cameras? No such cameras. Governmental secrecy or the public's right to know? And this one is tricky because my answer is going to be public's right to know, but some things are kept secret for a reason. Like if you're trying to find terrorists or stuff like that, if the public knows everything about this, well then also the terrorists know about this. And it's tricky, but I'm gonna go with public's right to know. Utter ban on all fascist activity in Germany or the current status quo? That one is a tricky one as well, because I am from Germany. I hate fascism. I hate that we have neo-Nazis in Germany. It's an embarrassment to no end. I hate that we have a popular right-wing party that is in government now, which hasn't happened since World War II. And I mean, we had very, very conservative parties that I still heavily disagree with, but not as obviously right-wing, or depending on what you define as right-wing. But at the same time, the freedom of speech, I think, is something that you have to extend even to opinions that you don't agree with. I think we could get stricter, and I think the judiciary system in Germany is problematic, and I think some of the police, and obviously not all of it, and some of the judges in power don't do enough to punish right-wing crimes. And obviously any crime is already banned and prohibited, but the expression of these opinions isn't 100%. It is more than in other countries. So for example, in Germany, you're not allowed to draw a swastika. That is illegal. So I think I'm gonna say current status quo, even though there's, I think, in terms of mindset of people, there's very much the desire to have it improved. And then Time and Chance gave me some more of these on a different video, and I'm just gonna run through these as well real quick. A government's right to search your homes or offices without a warrant, citing if you have zero to hide, you have zero to fear, versus an individual's right to privacy and individuals' right to privacy. Female students at educational institutions are able to wear as racy clothes as they like, with no restrictions, but they are also subjected to ogling and gaping at times, to which all authorities turn an utter blind eye, or having to wear very high on the collar, full-length black dresses with long sleeves as strict school uniform monotonously throughout the educational year, and decidedly no ogling or gaping happening. I'm gonna go with the first version, so the wear as racy as you like, because I don't think you should be told what to wear as a woman. And I'm gonna find a loophole and say, even if the authorities turn a blind eye, you can still kick ass and punch those people in the face. No violence though. Maybe don't punch them, but you know, call them out on their shit. Human-caused global warming is a current fact and must be proactively acted against. And I'm not gonna even read the second version because obviously, yes. Gated communities or no gated communities. And I don't know, it sounds weird from what I'm reading. These gated communities. It's like kind of isolated and you just do your thing. I don't really care, to be quite frank. Credit card or no credit cards. If I have to choose no credit cards, because otherwise if I have to use credit cards and everything can be tracked, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. Government gets to censor media, or an individual does the censoring, if any, and decides what they'll read and see strictly. I don't think the government should censor media, but having said that, even in Germany there is censorship, so you have things that are being censored, like things that are, for example, porn, that you can't just show during the day, so that's a form of censorship. Or certain things like right-wing papers and articles that would call for violence and stuff like that. And with those things, yes, I think you should censor those. Not that I'm saying no porn, but yeah, probably don't show it during the daytime where a 5-year-old can watch it. So in that sense, that is a sense of censorship, if you will, a kind of censorship, if you will. And then I think stuff that calls for violence against other groups, yeah, that should be censored. So I guess a certain kind of censorship then. But like, I'm all for really pushing the boundaries of censorship. So as long as you don't hurt anybody, or not even as long as you don't, like as long as you don't call for violent actions, things like that, I think the boundaries should be pushed. And not necessarily, I mean, I'm not gonna agree with those opinions necessarily, but that's what freedom of speech is about. It's not just about you having the freedom to say what you think is right, it's also about other people having the freedom to say what they think is right. Consent should mean agrees, or strictly consent should mean not crying for help. Consent should mean that you say you want to do this. If you just because you don't say anything, you don't cry for help, that doesn't mean you consent. That one world government or many national ones. I think it would be great if we would have one world government. I don't think that would work because we are spread out over the globe and we just have the tendency to categorize in groups, and it just, as much as I would wish for it to be possible that we would be one country, unfortunately I don't think that's human nature. I still say it, one world government, but then again, if that one world government turns dictatorship, then everybody's screwed. So I don't know. I'm gonna skip this one. Ha! I can do that. They told me I can do that, so I'm gonna skip this one. Technology is the center of current civilization, or technology is not the center of current civilization. I don't think you can say one thing is the center of current civilization. I mean, technology obviously is very important in our day and age. I wouldn't be able to talk to you without technology, but I think there's more that makes civilization. I think morality and being conscious of other people and the world itself and trying to do the right thing, I think that is part of civilization, and I don't think that has anything to do with technology, so I don't think it's the center of current civilization in that sense, no. The government, the police, and your place of employment should all have your fingerprints, retinal scan, brain scan, and copies of your DNA, or a big nay to that, and obviously no. big nay. Neutral internet or no neutral internet. And again, I had to look this up. So neutral internet, from what I understand, is that all data is delivered at the same time, regardless of what kind of data that is. Whereas a non-neutral internet would prioritize things. And I think the risk with neutral internet is that it would slow things down. But with non-neutral internet, the risk is that certain websites would get prioritized and others would like have a disadvantage. So I'm guessing neutral internet then, even though it would slow things down for everybody. I don't know. Worship is banned or freedom of worship? Freedom of worship, as long as you don't harm anybody with it, freedom of worship. Censuses or no censuses? Again, with censuses, you, I guess, have the risk that you give a lot of data away, and those can be, if they are published in a way that it makes it identifiable to individuals, then that's problematic, obviously, and they can be abused. So I don't really have any strong feelings on censuses, to be honest, though. There's no place for the state in the bedroom of the nation. Yeah, there's no place for it, period. Marriage should mean whatever one wants it to mean, or marriage is a technical term. And I don't think either is correct. I think marriage should be between two people that wantonly enter a union. So, and they should be able to give consent. So if you say marriage is whatever you want it to mean, that would mean that you can marry a 10-year-old and that's fine. And I don't think it should mean that. But if you're talking in sense of technical term and you're referring to marriage should be only between a man and a woman, then no, I don't agree with that. I think marriage should be between two people that ideally love each other, but that definitely want to be together and want to legalize that, regardless of gender and sexuality and anything else you can factor in. Members of a religion are able to kill at will without retribution as long as they deem it is for their religion, or no, and obviously no. Search engine companies should be able to track all of its users and hand all this info to the government of the country the company is in, or no, no. International terrorists who commit mass murders should have rights under the Geneva Convention, or no. I still think that everybody is entitled to those rights, even though they obviously have done things that would, you know, would deservedly lose them under that. I don't believe in the death penalty for anybody. I don't believe in torture for anybody. I do believe those people should be imprisoned for the rest of their lives. National terrorists who commit mass murder should have rights like any other foreign citizens, or no. Cue my answer before. Homegrown extremists who commit mass murder should have all the legal rights and protections like any other citizen, or no. Yes, they should, even though they obviously have done horrible things. Homegrown extremists who commit mass murder should have their citizenship stripped and then handed over to the International Court of Justice in The Hague for war crimes. Oh no. I think they should be handed over, but I don't think they should be stripped of their nationality or their citizenship. But yeah, I think they should be held accountable in an International Court of Justice. World's billionaires should get yearly 5% tax cuts, or no. No, they have enough money as it is. If anything, they should pay more taxes. And those are all the questions by Time and Chance. And yes, that made the video quite a bit longer than I expected, the second part. So yeah, I hope that was interesting. If you want to answer any of these questions, because I think they're really interesting, and I mean they lend themselves for obviously much lengthier discussions than the ones I provided here, feel free to answer that below. I'd be curious to know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all the questions you asked. This was really fun to do. I'll see you next time. Bye guys!